So when she sat you down and said, yes, I am a singer and an entertainer, but a different kind of one. Mm-hmm. Were you horrified, or were you, because you said like maybe early high school, so maybe
like a little less, like a little earlier on than high school, because high school was starting to be like more like, okay, this is like very, like, it's very like out there, and it's not something like, because when I was younger, it'd be like, oh yes, this is what I've done. It's like, okay, it's almost like like behind closed doors, like, because, when you think back to that time anyway, that's really how it was too. Like,
and
people,
it is now too.
Yeah, people in, black jackets and black hats trying to like hide, hide where they're at is like, like these big coats, like literally, I remember my mom would be like, yeah, people would like almost hide.
The raincoat crowd.
Yeah. To go in and so people wouldn't notice. But so I kind of like had that vision in my head. Of course, like as a young girl, knowing that my mom, like, I wasn't even talking about sex yet. You know what I mean? And like she was very much, whatever you want to know, you know. And of course I was like, ugh, like it's like any kid going, oh wow, my parents have sex. You're like, ew. Like we all know it's a reality, but like don't want to think about it.
Of
don't
course,
want to know anything about it. Like do your thing, but like I'm out. Like,
right.
But because it was such like a big part of her life, it's like you can't just be like, oh, that's great, Yeah. And so at first I definitely, I wouldn't say horrified. I would say like, oh my, which is funny because that's really not my personality, especially now of like, I'm very accepting and very like open and all of that. But like, knowing that your mom has not only like had sex, right? You're like, oh my God, you've had sex?
Right.
Like, how am I here? Obviously. Then you realize it's been with, a few people.
And it's been on screen.
And it's on screen, but not only on screen, but in the movie theater and,
and people have seen it.
Ex-boyfriends at Thanksgiving dinner would tell me, oh, I just brought your mom up and my grandpa almost choked on his turkey. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, ew, but also super cool. Like there's a line there where I can't really say when I crossed that line of going like, this is not gross. This is like super empowering. And it might have been as I was like growing up, maybe a little bit more in high school, to be like, I want to be that empowering person to like people around me, and to know that my mom did that to so many people, like all across her life and all the journeys that she did was pretty cool. Yeah. So there was definitely a flip flop for sure.
Yeah. And so did you immediately run into your friends?
No.
Like, hey.
I think it became like a thing when they'd be like, who's Marilyn Chambers? And I'd be like, well, that's my mom. You see her face. Like, she definitely looks like that.
Yeah.
And, I think it was also like a learning point for me to, how do I describe this to people? Right? Like, how do I say, oh, well, my mom did a lot of work in, work in the film industry. Oh, your mom's a celebrity. What movies was she in? Have I ever watched any of them? And, my answer as a joke would be like, I hope not, but, like, maybe ask your dad. Like, that's the things I would joke about.
Yeah.
And so my mom,
humor to get.
And my mom would be like, honestly, she would be like, oh my God, we cannot stop. You know what I mean? Like once people started to know who she was, and like, later on in high school, I'd be like, oh, my mom has to stop by for like whatever, right? Having people over, and my mom would be like, McKenna, like, do I have to like dress up? Do I have to put makeup on? Like, no. But,
so become the Marilyn Chambers persona.
Exactly. So I kind of felt like as like she knew that I was accepting and all of that, it would be like she would almost be more embarrassed, like like
it's funny to watch some of even when she was Marilyn Chambers back in the 70s, like especially in Inside Marilyn Chambers, that awful documentary that she hated, that's supposed to be about her life that isn't really, but there are inserts of her doing an interview, and she can't say the word cock. She gets very kind of,
oh my gosh,
like a bit embarrassed. And throughout some of the stuff that she did later on in life, she was embarrassed by it.
And what's so weird is that like, my mom was also the person that like, if any of my friends had like a question about sex, like, or about the human body, like, throw that out there. It was like, hey, like my mom would also cook dinner for like all of my friends, like dinner night. So there was a new person there, like with us, right? And I would be like, Marilyn, do you think I could talk to you for a second? Like that kind of stuff. Like no one was ever embarrassed around my mom. But it's funny to see, you know, my mom would be like, all right, let me check it out. Come on in. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then to know that, like, yeah, like she couldn't say like certain words. But like also funny thing that you say about that is that I'd be like, my mom would be like she'd say the word pussy and I'd be like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Right.
Ew. She's like, what would you want me to call it? Vagina.
Right.
And I'm like, well, now that you say it like that, maybe not, Mom.
Right.
But
yeah.
She always had more of like even when she would say the word, like, this is going to sound so silly, but like the word pussy, it's like there's wisdom behind that word. Is that like, it's weird to say, but it's like to know that my mom knew all about the world of sex when it could be an embarrassing topic to other people, and to know that like my friend could come over and ask them her questions that they could never ask their parents is why I knew like the power of the word pussy isn't dirty, isn't, you know, it just isn't like, you know, and like she really taught me that too. Like, you know, you make the things that happen in your life, like the words that you hear, like you have your own perspective, you have, like, you know, how you feel about it is how you feel about it. And because she had so much experience, like I want that wisdom from her of like being okay with yourself, being okay with using the word pussy, being okay with talking about sex.